If you're interested in the hype around the nervous system, then this episode is really going to teach you something. Today, I'm joined by Leona and Anna Ali, who are the hosts of the Body Knows podcast. And I can tell you that podcast is getting some attention. And it's clear and obvious to me why it is, because the way that these two talk about somatics, embodiment, and the nervous system is so easy to understand in a practical way while feeling like you're actually gathering a lot of valuable information too. In this episode, we look at somatics versus embodiment and why regulating your nervous system is getting productized to death. And we also look at the 3 things that your body is organizing around, whether you like it or not: safety, belonging, and dignity. Little bit of a side note worth mentioning: Leona and Anna came into our online community breathing space and delivered the most incredible session that people within our community were so blown away by that Leona and Anna have now become fully fledged members of Breathing Space and will be coming back in to deliver regular sessions for us. If you are not in Breathing Space, you are missing out. But most importantly, if you've been trying to work through things like anxiety, shutdown, burnout, or even just that kind of feeling of tension within your body, then this episode is going to teach you something. We have real conversations about real world stuff. It is very, very practical, a bit funny as well at times, and it might just change how you understand yourself. So sit back, listen in, and I will see you on the other side. Dysfunction is everywhere, in our families, in our cultures, and in our systems. And this is Dysfunctional, the podcast that helps you name the things that most people can or won't see. Let's call it out, break it down, and maybe even start a bloody revolution. Welcome to The Body Knows. I'm going to call you collectively The Body Knows, but separately I can say hello, Leona and Anna. Leona, firstly, how are you doing?
I am doing great. It's so good to be back on the podcast. I'm so sorry that my cat has also joined the podcast. Her name's Luna for the people watching. But I'm really excited to see the conversation that we have because I know both of you very well and we've never gathered all 3 of us. And I think what we're going to get into is going to be super fascinating.
Yeah, we've never had like a proper conversation, the 3 of us, have we?
Mm-mm.
No. And what about you, Anna? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I feel like I have had a bit of a rough few days, and I woke up this morning feeling alive and settled, and like props to somatic work because I dove into that to process all these big emotions, and it worked again. And so I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
For the people that might be watching this as well, can you just tell us where you are?
Yes, I'm on the east side of the Sierra Nevada mountains in California.
In a van, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Your
be more
background
specific there on it. I'm in
This
a
is
van.
the point I'm highlighting, yeah.
If you can see my background, you've got my kitchen here to my left, the bed's in the back. I'm sitting here in my office, which is also my passenger seat.
And you live in there?
And I live in here. Yeah, so I spent many years living after college on the road in a tiny Subaru Impreza. And I'd sort of traveled around all over the place, landing in Patagonia for a couple years in Chile, and came back to the States, tried the 9-to-5 town life, and didn't work for me. So I took my whole savings account and I bought a van and I built it out, and I'm living my best life.
What, and you live in it 24/7?
Yes.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah, you guys could
I just
probably
thought
do
it
an
was
entire podcast just on that.
Well, on van life, like,
Yeah.
yeah. Why don't you should start a podcast called Van Life.
We already have a podcast, Josh.
Yeah, but like, yeah. All right.
Oh, Josh, and that's like a whole other can of worms. It's funny to hear you say van life because, and this is like a really niche thing I'm about to express, but there's a really a big culture of travelers here in the United States and people who have decided to forego the conventional life for a lifestyle that allows them to pursue freedom and adventure and being outside in nature. I don't live in my van for the sake of living in my van. I live in my van for the sake of being in wild places and soaking in silence and openness and access to the outdoors. And there's a lot of different subsets of people within that world. And there's like rich, retired CEO types and tech bros, and they're in their like $250,000 Sprinter vans that are lifted. And then there's, the people I came from in 1997 Subarus and Tacomas and like broken down vehicles, fixing their engines at a campground. And there's a whole spread within the culture. And
wow.
hashtag van life came in a lot of ways like antithetical to what the lifestyle was about for us.
Oh, so we don't like hashtag van life because it's like, is that what you're saying? That was a long way of saying.
That was a very diplomatic way. Welcome to
Don't
Anna.
group me in with that. Yeah, just like right for the rest of the podcast, right? Okay. You're welcome to go fuck van life, Josh. That's what it's about.
No, Josh, I am a firm believer in nonviolent communication and safety, belonging, and dignity for all. And there are differences among us. And so there's a part of me that would absolutely never have a podcast called Van Life.
Well, the other thing that was making me laugh a little bit, and I was having to hold a giggle in when you were talking, when you were diplomatically telling me no, that what I said was stupid. I was thinking, I've watched a documentary about a couple that lived in their van. And then as I started to try and remember it, I remembered that it was a murder documentary. So I thought, I was about to bring it up and I'd have been like, yeah, they would like in this blue van. And then I was like, oh no. It was like the story of how they went missing and what happened. Anyway.
Mom, if you're listening, that was a made up story. Josh is remembering like something fictional.
Yeah. Anyway, what I've lost completely where we are now. Leona, why don't you tell us a little bit about, or remind the listener about who you are and what you do?
All right.
First.
So I am co-host with Anna of the podcast The Body Knows. And in The Body Knows, we talk about the wisdom of the body. Everything from sensation, like the very tangible wisdom of the body, to how it holds tension, to chronic illness, to also emotions. Because emotions, I know we say like, if you're struggling emotionally, we say that you have a mental health problem. But from my own personal journey, I realized that emotions lived in the body. Like when I'm stressed, I'm tense. When I'm upset, I'm crying. When I'm mad, I want to yell. I want to fight. So I am kind of the embodiment half of our duo. Anna will get more into what she does, but the embodiment side is more emotional. Sorry if you can hear my cat in the background. She is currently trying.
Don't worry, Luna's very welcome.
Okay. So the embodiment side, which is really about like connecting getting to know your emotional undercurrent that's running between your mind and your body. So that is, that's what I'm here to talk about today. I do kind of a million things, but that's the thing that I'm really passionate about, and really passionate helping people understand their bodies and their emotions in a totally different way.
Yeah, about coming back to them, coming back to their bodies as well, right? And I do want to, as we get into this, maybe get into some of the practices that I know that you are really good at and advocate for. Aside from starting a new podcast called Van Life, Anna, what about you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, you already know I live in a van, and I guess with regards to The Body Knows, I came to this work through severe chronic illness that was primarily exacerbated from long-term chronic Lyme disease, which is a parasitic infection from a tick. I was 23 when I was diagnosed, and after about 6 months of intensive antibiotics that didn't work, they basically told me I had a chronic and degenerative disease and that symptoms could be managed as they progressed. And
What were the symptoms?
What were the symptoms? It's a long list. Let me give you some of the headlines. It's like severe fatigue.
Right.
So sleeping a lot at night and then napping throughout the day. And then during the day, even just walking down the block would be an exhausting experience. My hands were shaking. I had a lot of like neurological things going on. Nerve pain, fibromyalgia, these like crazy, like it started as these sort of needle sensations that turned into stabbing, more like knife stabby in my joints. I sort of stopped digesting, motility disappeared. I was pretty nutrient deficient. I had just inflammation, arthritis, tendonitis everywhere. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. That's enough. That sounds pretty bad as it is. Yeah.
It was bad. It was bad. And especially as like a young 20-year-old fresh out of college with the world at my fingertips and my athletic outdoor life, just it felt like everything was ripped away from me. And I was told that I was an old woman now. And that led me down a long path of eventually getting into integrative health and alternative medicine. And for those I'm watching, I put finger quotes up for that one because, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole actually, but
You are in a minute. You will be. So carry on for now.
And then I kept like getting better and then plateauing in some way and then finding something new and applying that and getting better and plateauing. And that eventually led me to the nervous system and to the science that was coming out about trauma and how trauma affects the nervous system and the body and shows up for a lot of people as chronic illness over time. And when I started applying those principles and it wasn't just about understanding it, but about actually practicing the work, that I saw incredible changes in my health.
Yeah, wow. And then it led you to start wanting to like share the work as well, I guess.
Yeah, and so I think during this whole process, I was sharing it with friends, talking about with friends, with strangers. I was still, rock climbing, but like it was mainly just going to the crag and me hanging out and maybe climbing something easy. But so I talked about it a lot, and I had a lot of people reflect to me over time, like, you should teach this, like that. You just answered some questions I've had for such a long time. I can't wait to learn more. And the more and more that happened, the more and more I started considering going down that path. And because it's so fulfilling, and the information is out there, and there are so many people who believe that they are stuck and sick and there's nothing they can do. And like, it just breaks my heart. And so that is, a big part of why the Body Knows exists. How can we get this information out there?
So when, Leona, I'll come back to you on it. When did you start the Body Knows? How did you two meet actually first?
So we met when we were both living in Colorado. We were both hiking guides, and it was like it was friend crush at like first sight. We were both like, hi. Because we were both outdoorsy. Anna more so than me. She solidly lives in that category, and I like moonlight in that category. But to talk to someone who is not just outdoorsy and like excited about athleticism, but who like understands the mind body connection and understands like the energetic, emotional, physical impact of holding tension in your body, and has discovered that exercise, the great outdoors, is like, ooh, not just this way of like exercising your body, but the way of processing your emotions, the way of like coming home to yourself. Like, I think for both of us, we found the outdoors was like our first hospital. It was our first church. It was the place that we were like, oh my God, I can breathe again. And then we kind of went down slightly similar but very related rabbit holes, embodiment and somatics. And so when we met, it was just like, oh my God, you're my other half. Like, you understand this stuff from a different angle. And so it was just, yeah, we never looked back. It took us a little while to get to the podcast part because we had to like believe in ourselves and like get over imposter syndrome. But we got there eventually.
What is the difference between somatics and embodiment?
And I feel like you're better at explaining this one.
Yeah. To me, they really do feel like sort of just two different perspectives on the same thing. They're two different pathways and ways of looking at something. I think for me, so my background is in mechanical engineering, and coming from a very science and academic and rigid structural background, somatics offers a scientific explanation to the mind body experience. And it feels like a safe way to step into something that could easily be labeled as woo woo or crazy or whatever. And then embodiment, I think, is for those who maybe don't have that wounding or conditioning, and it feels more accessible to, like, I'm going to embody a quality, my emotions. I'm going to let this energy run through me. I'm going to use a visualization. I'm going to work with archetypes, and it's, yeah, just two different approaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Embodiment, like the word embodiment means bringing an idea into your body, right? Like that's what it means on the most basic level. And so it is super broad, whereas somatics gives you more practices, and it's more like step by step, like this is what you do in order to regulate your nervous system, this is what you do in order to release activation energy, and we can get into what all of that means. Embodiment is more like is more like artistic, is more open form, like how for me as I got into it, it was embodying different faces of the feminine. So like embodying the wild woman, embodying the lover, embodying the medicine woman, and realizing through that embodiment that I had kept parts of myself really locked away and really trapped. And my struggle was with mental health, specifically anxiety, and having all of this energy and emotion inside of me that I felt like I couldn't escape from. And I realized I needed to let out more of me. I needed to embody more of me. And that was when like the clouds essentially parted. So embodiment is just, yeah, it's just much more artistic, much more intuitive of like, okay, what is the energy that wants to run through me? How can I get my body involved in this process in some way? So very fluid, whereas somatics is like much easier for our mind to understand, honestly.
It's
Like,
structured.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what? So somatics is like more structured than embodiment. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I guess the two fit together quite well because then you can connect the head and the heart, right? I always say, like, I feel like when the passageway, did I get this off of you, Leona? When the passageway between my heart and my head is open both ways, then I feel like I'm in a good place. Is that your line?
No, that's all you. I've never even heard that.
I don't think it's me. I don't think I've come up with it, but I've heard it somewhere, right? But like it come into my mind when like you were both talking about how the two like relate.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're like a good way of us really being able to navigate, you're both saying like Honor's experience is like navigating the kind of physical struggle, and Leona, yours is like navigating the kind of mental struggle. I guess that's another reason, by the way, why you both work together, right? Because it fits like that. Why do you think it's like still seen as? Why is it still like an alternative medicine? Why isn't this in? Why don't I go to the doctor when I'm anxious and got a dodgy tummy, and the doctor go, "Why you need a bit of somatics and embodiment?"
We're both like holding back a rant.
Yeah, no, fucking rant. I'm asking so
Anna,
you
give it
rant.
to us. Give it to us. I can
Come
smell
on,
it.
Anna. Come on.
Okay, what do I want to say here?
Swear a bit with it. Go on, I dare you.
Oh, don't you know I want to? Ooh.
You want me to tee you up, babe?
No. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna
Go for it. Listen, you ain't going to say anything more controversial than what I've said on here. So.
And maybe this is too broad of an answer, but it's just coming back to what I've been writing about a lot recently, is that we live in a world, a globalized world that was globalized through a very specific paradigm. We are all a part of a system that is built on dehumanization, extraction, and mass harm. And this has taken place over generations on a global scale. And most people today live in a system that relies on distrust and shame and fear and poverty and exhaustion and power over dynamics that tell them to not trust their inner knowing, but an external authority. And as it turns out, that external authority is a part of a structural system that, again, is built on dehumanization, extraction, and mass harm. And so we are living within harmful systems that sustain themselves and keep us disconnected from ourselves and each other and a shared sense of safety, belonging, and dignity. And when we're not connected to that, we don't have access to a lot of what makes us vital and healthy and thriving and alive.
You didn't swear. Do you agree? Do you agree, Leona? Not on the fact of her not swearing. I mean, do you add anything to what's been said?
Absolutely. And maybe to make it a little bit more like Anna just spoke to like the big broad, and to like bring back to this maybe more human level. We are all taught to not trust what we feel. We are taught that our feelings are something to fix or something to willpower our way through. And like, one, there has been a lack of research for a very long time. We can get into like that very sciencey side, that essentially anything for a long time, I mean, there's been so much dogma in science. Anything that had a whisper of the mind-body connection, any scientist who brought it up got laughed out. And so they didn't study it. So like, we have to remember that science is not like this pure objective thing. Science lives within the system still. So if people are judged for exploring a topic, that topic isn't going to get explored. And then on the other level, we are taught to trust authority figures. We are taught to look for external answers, like doctors giving us a solution, doctors giving us a pill, doctors telling us what's wrong with us. And that system right now is built on addressing the symptom, not the root cause. And so, one, it makes people very uncomfortable, this idea that you might be able to feel a truth in your body that science hasn't studied and science hasn't proven. That makes some people incredibly uncomfortable. And so some people don't want to touch that. And then for a lot of us, I know for me, it was just that, like, that idea was never given to me. And I had to like claw that knowing back to myself. Like, I wanted it, but I had to claw back the acceptance that like, actually my intuition was valid. And actually my mental health, which I have a degree in neuroscience. I was sitting in neuroscience classes. I had a psychologist. I had a psychiatrist. I was on meds. And I was told that I had an imbalance in my brain chemistry and that I would just have to take these meds for the rest of my life. And I was like, but I was fine for the last 20 years. And like, I've been through a lot of hard stuff in the last couple of years. And like, we're not going to talk about any of that. Like, that's not playing a part in all of this. We're not going to, I just have a chemical imbalance in my brain, and that's the problem. And because I'm stubborn as fuck, I was like, I'm not accepting that answer. I'm going to go find something. And I just threw spaghetti at a wall for about a decade until I found embodiment and found the mind-body connection and stumbled my way into somatic practices, which is the cool, wild part. Like, intuitively, paying enough attention, enough time with my body, I found the somatic practices that now Anna teaches. And I was like, oh my God, I've been doing these and I didn't even know. And like, I've come back to myself, but it was very long and hard to come back to that trusting of inner authority. And people don't want you to trust that inner authority. The system, individuals, we're all terrified of like your intuition. And it's scary because then you have to let somebody else's inner truth be different from yours. And that's like complicated. That's like a philosophically complicated question when you start talking about my truth versus your truth. But if you can keep it in the realm of emotion and sensation, what you're physically feeling inside of your body, it makes so much sense. Like we know it's my body. I can feel it. I can feel it on the inside. Like I can feel things a doctor can never measure. Okay, I think I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. And firstly, I don't think I've ever heard the expression of throwing spaghetti at a wall. So thank you for that.
Really?
Is that
It
American?
must be like a cultural thing.
It must be, I think it's the American. This happens a lot where you throw an Americanism at me and no, actually it happens the other way around more because most Americanisms I know because I watch American, like most American, things we watched growing up were American, but the opposite way around when I say English things, which is funny, Leona, when you repeat them to me and you say them.
Yeah,
I'm like,
they're always so funny.
And
big dumb dossa.
yeah.
I have no idea what you just said.
No, you wouldn't. But I think just by the way, to bring both of the things that you've said to the listener, like, and to try and offer a bit of my own perspective as well, but also try and bring together what you've both said. I think often when you talk about like the system being the way that it is, and the system being that way sort of by design, I think people think that we're trying to say that there's a group of people sat around a table going, right, we need to do this, and then if we do this, they won't do that. But that's not how a sort of toxic and dysfunctional system works, right? It works because you'll have like an imbalance of power that for whatever reason, and then that starts to get abused and abused and abused. And so like I sort of think of like, if you look at the Industrial Revolution, and then when they started school in the way that they did, like we're not suggesting that they sat down then and said, we're going to take over the world, but they went, the best thing for capitalism in this way is to make obedient children. So they started making obedient children. To make an obedient child, you need to get them up in their head. You need to get them to just learn sums, spelling, sums, time, so they can clock in, clock out, and do as they're told, and they have to be obedient, right? And so capitalism as it was then, it worked that way. But then if you fast forward to where we are now, and like you've got this globalization that's now going on, all of that stuff just starts getting put like on steroids, so it's like the globalization needs it even more now, and you're running out of like different cultures that you can go and lean on. And I think that personally, I think that what's actually happened in the last particularly 20 years is the colonization of the mind, so that like the West particularly is colonizing different countries. You look at like meditation, mindfulness, or even embodiment, right? Like these have been things since the beginning of time, right? But unless our sort of materialistic view of science, which means if I can't see it and measure it, then it doesn't exist, then it doesn't leave any room for the body. And one thing I notice whenever I listen to people that truly understand like somatics, embodiment, like, or just like a simple being in your body, it's very, very difficult to articulate, because it doesn't make full rational sense in the mind. And that's half the problem, isn't it? Anytime you have a deep experience in your body, you ruin it when you explain it to somebody, because it loses its meaning. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So I'll come back to you on a minute. What do you see that's like really wrong with the way that people are talking about somatics and embodiment today?
Yeah. um, Somatics has been framed, and so going back to this dominant paradigm that you just, by the way, so beautifully said and explained. Going back to that, it's been co-opted by that exact same system, and somatics is now being sold and marketed as a trend, as a method, as a set of techniques to calm down, for self-improvement, for optimizing performance. It's being bent toward productivity, performance, and then individual coping in the face of structural harm, of systemic harm. And it's actually being sold as a way to essentially perpetuate the very systems that are causing us harm.
She said
it. You're strongly agreeing, Leona.
Yeah, just like anything that, and we talked about this in the podcast that you and I did like a year ago, Josh. You know, when the point is conformity, when really anything is framed as a method for you to conform, for you to fit in, for you to be able to work 10 hours a day, for you to be able to like burn your body out in the hopes of making a bunch of money, for you to be, like Anna said, calm in the face of like global injustice that's going on. We have to pause and we have to slow down and question it and being like, why am I doing this? Do I just want to be okay in a broken system? Or there's a Albert Camus, I don't know how to say his last name, quote that Anna and I both really love, that I'm probably going to slightly butcher, but it's like, the best way to deal with an unfree system is to become so free that your very existence is an act of liberation. And
Can I say that quote?
Yeah. Did I say it wrong?
A little bit.
Okay.
But you nailed it. But it was Camus, and he said the only way to be free in an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion.
Right.
And so the point I was making is like that is the basis of somatics, is to become sovereign, to become your own like inner authority is a strong word, but like to become your own ally, to not be giving away to not be self-abandoning for systems, for your boss, for your lover, for your friends, for your family, community. It's to prioritize yourself and your body and your nervous system health. And so when it's being used as a way of just keeping you in the box, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I think we see this as well, don't we, with like the productization of all of these like things. And again, that's on a micro level, that is what I'm talking about with the colonization, right? When people are coming in and you see someone on LinkedIn saying like, how to have a healthy nervous system in the workspace and stuff like that. And it's like, in one way, it's kind of nuanced, because in one way, like you two could actually on a deep level help people to understand what that truly means. But when I see other people just talking about it, it's just this like highly productized bullshit version of what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. I will say, I just want to throw in there that is how I ended up in the like wellness space. Like I, as a 20 something, was looking for a way to like be more productive and feel more sane on a daily basis. And it was a perfect gateway drug. So find whatever gateway into this work you need to find. And for the people on LinkedIn talking about nervous system resilience, like I'm gonna shake my fist a little bit, but I'm also gonna like pray that like this is just like the first door, the first step, and then they find like the whole universe, and then they start embodying freedom.
You make a good point. I can sometimes be a little bit harsh and actually have a bit of a pop at some of these things when actually it's a stone that I trod on my way here, you know. So sometimes you have to understand that people do need a way in, right? And I guess if people are going to get in a way in that way, then it's all right. I guess it's like what I get a little bit pissed off with is when it's not somebody's just doing it to productize it. Do you know what I mean? And they don't give a shit about like the history or the work or wherever it comes from and stuff. I want to talk, if we can, a little bit. So you both came in and did a session in Breathing Space, my community, and little shout out, you're going to be coming in more to do that. More to follow. Watch this space. But you said something that really stuck with me. But obviously, it's not stuck with me enough to remember exactly what it was. No, I think I will remember it. I'll give you a hint on her, and you'll be able to take it and run with it. It was belonging, dignity, safety.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Talk to me about that, please.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, just sort of tie together everything that Leona just said and to what you just said. Somatics, as I was taught it and like to teach it, is a return to wholeness and a return, a connection to our humanity and our shared humanity. And at its core, somatic work is oriented around what our body, mind, spirit, what our nervous system organizes around, which is our felt sense of safety, belonging, and dignity. And these three pieces are not only like fundamental human needs, but they are fundamental human rights as well. And without going down that rabbit hole today, that plays a large role in my and Leona's belief of, for the sake of collective liberation. Okay, I lost my train of thought because I got really excited about collective liberation.
Safety, belonging, dignity.
Safety, belonging, and dignity was Josh's question.
Yeah.
Okay. So somatics is about reorienting to that and reorienting to that through the body. And it's not our mind that determines our sense of safety, belonging, and dignity. It's our body, our felt sense experience that determines our sense of safety, belonging, and dignity.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about orienting and creating a life that has those three things at its core being met, this is not mindset work. This is not fake it till you make it. This is not just like say the thing. This is feel it. This is experience it. This is bring integration back to these parts that have been fragmented through rupture to our sense of safety, belonging, and dignity throughout our lives.
Yeah. So I feel like so much of like, certainly in the West anyway, I just feel like so much of what we're taught is about getting up in your head. And it's like, I think the Western mental health conversation is like one big emotional bypass. It's like honestly, I think that it's just this whole thing that's created to help you make sense of your experience in a way that has nothing to do with your felt experience. You know, like the chemical imbalance theory, which was a fucking marketing ploy anyway, right? That's kind of been outed anyway, that it was like a marketing ploy. But all of that stuff just it's never resonated with what actually goes on in your body, right? And can we talk, Leona, about this practice that you do? Because I think it lends itself to this a little bit. Do you know what practice I'm talking about? You're nodding, yeah?
The responsiveness one?
The responsiveness one, right? And I don't know whether you want to speak to it or kind of explain like how people do it, but My biggest struggles in my life, internal struggles, happen when I'm up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that so much that's offered out there just is like, it's almost like, well, let's stay in your head and try and figure it out. And sometimes I'll pick up an obsession that I become obsessed about, but I'm still in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do this practice that you do, I go out of my head and then I go into my body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I will just say quickly as a side point of that, when it does drop me in my body, it takes you to the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the truth is really hard and tricky and touches on a bunch of stuff. And then you realize once you drop into your body, why you stay up in your head. It's like, oh, this is fucking uncomfortable now. And I'm in my body and it's giving me the answers. So I've got more that I want to say on it, but can you just tell people what I'm butchering, what I'm on
Yeah.
about?
So this is a expanded version of the somatic practice of orienting. Orienting is you orienting to your environment using your five senses. I actually learned this practice from some friends, Carrie Nicolette, but they added the level of responsiveness to it. So, for
Shout out their
example,
podcast. What's their podcast called?
their podcast is called Erotic Reclamation.
Erotic Reclamation. Shout them out.
Shout
Come
out
on.
to them. Um,
Yeah.
so, for example, you can close your eyes if that feels right. You can keep them open because you can also do this with sight. And you let your attention to be drawn to a sensation. So, like right now, it's like this wool sweater on my biceps. I like feel. And I take 3 breaths, just noticing how my body wants to respond to the wool on my biceps. And it's just kind of like, it's a little tingly, it's a little scratchy, but it's also like squeezing in a nice way. And I just take 3 breaths. And then I pay attention to anything else. And then I hear the construction going on next door. And I take 3 breaths, letting my body respond to it, which in this case is like, and that's fine. I'm just letting myself respond to reality. And then I take 3 breaths and I see these beautiful roses that are next to my desk. And just take them in with my eyes and see how my body wants to respond in these 3 breaths. And what I find doing that practice, so the orienting practice in somatics, Anna can attest to this. I was like, I don't get it. It's not doing anything for me. Adding the piece of responding to it, I've discovered I have a really strong self-monitoring tendency where I am constantly being very micromanagey of how I show up, how I express, how I respond. So it takes down 2 layers. First of all, I get out of my head because I'm getting out into my environment. And second of all, I get out of my head again because I'm no longer paying attention to, like, I'm no longer restricting how I respond. I just let myself be. I let myself be this like open conduit for sensation and response, input and output. Breathe in, what do I feel? Breathe out, how does it make me react? That's practice. I can say more about how this connects to safety, belonging, dignity, but you sounded like you were on a train also.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's good what you've said, right? And one thing that I've learned from doing it, right? Like from you doing it to me. Is that how we do it? You doing it to me?
I was
From you
guiding.
guiding me. That sounds better. Yeah. Sounds more spiritually apt than the way that I put it. Now I've lost my train of thought. No, from you doing it, what I realized, and actually, when you both came into the body knows, did Honor do something similar to this? The
Oh,
orienting
yes.
piece.
Came into breathing space. Yes.
Yeah. So I realized through that sound is like the thing that I can really hone in on. And I realized that from that, that I dub sound down a lot internally. I'm constantly just dubbing down and trying to block out sound. So when you done it in breathing space, and then when you done it for me the other day, in breathing space, I can't remember what I heard, but I remember being like, fucking hell, like, wow, I can hear a sound so clearly. And Leona, you did it the other day, and I could hear birds in the background from your side, but crystal clear. And I'm like, I don't experience that unless I'm trying to orient to it.
Mm-hmm.
The bit I wanted to pick up on, and it might lend itself well, Honor, to come to you from it. What was the phrase that you just said that you're trying to use all of this for? Something that you said you didn't want to go off down that path.
Collective liberation.
Was it?
Collective liberation.
Collective liberation, yeah. Because I could do that practice that you just talked about on my own. I could not do it with another person there unless they were safe and I knew that they understood and weren't gonna go straight back up in the head. Yeah. Because when I go down into my body, I got very, very clear on what was worrying me, scaring me, and fucking my head up. But then I had to vocalize it. And I was lucky at the time it was you, Leona, so I could vocalize it, yeah? And I knew that you wouldn't take me back up into my head or do something that felt unsafe. So does it lend itself to it, Honor? I feel like I want to come back to you. Have I just rambled? Please say something.
No, I think you nailed it. I don't even know what you want me to say right now.
I have something to say.
Yeah, go on then. You do it. You save us, Leona. Go
on. What I hear in this conversation is, bouncing up into your head has two functions. One, it's been good for the global system or whatever, capitalism. But two, it also is, it's us running away from the feelings in our body. And like Anna said, safety, belonging, and dignity, they can only be felt. You can't manufacture a feeling in your head. And when you get in touch with your body, you are going to feel those things loudly. And a lot of people, like, I know for me, I was like, I'm safe. So I don't understand why my body feels crazy. Did I have dignity? Did I have belonging? Like, those two they're in the same sentence as safety, dignity, and belonging, and they get skipped all the time. And so, like you said, Josh, just coming, using the responsiveness practice, orienting practice, whatever, somatic practice, breath work, also a somatic practice, all of those things, and getting out of your head and into your body initially can be really scary. Because like you said, all of a sudden, all of the feelings that you've been trying not to feel, and the conversations that you need to have, the things about your environment, your living situation, your relationship that need to be changed, you can't avoid them anymore. Because that's why it has been good to be in our head. That's why we spend so much time scrolling on social media and watching Netflix, because it's in drinking alcohol, like doing things that get us out of our body and into our head, because it's so much safer. And so initially those somatic practices can be startling and alarming, but if we want to get to safety, belonging, dignity, we have to know where we are first, and we can only know where we are when we come into our body. And so I have a lot of compassion for people, like, and I've heard friends say, I've said it myself, like, my head isn't a safe place to be, like inside my body isn't a safe place to be. And I have a lot of compassion for that. But that's the first step, right? Like, I had a teacher explain it once of, like, if you're trying to get to a destination, you have to know where you are. You have to know where you are. Otherwise, like, you're not going to go the right way. So you have to slow down and be willing to look at, like, oh, where am I at with safety, belonging, dignity?
And then this is where it becomes like such a societal issue, because when you're talking about belonging and dignity, societal expectations then can rob you of both of those things, right? So as you were talking, I was just thinking about, like, to generalize a little bit, but like men, I read somewhere today that somebody said one of the problems for men is that they're not raised to be men, they're just raised not to be girls. right? And that's but that's like a real experience of a young boy going into, and I'll be like completely candid with you, right? Completely honest. When I was a teenager turning into a man, as in going through like puberty and all of that stuff, yeah, going through that age, my biggest fear about the perception of who I am, so like, my sense of belonging and dignity, the biggest two threats were that you might think that I'm some sort of girl, yeah, or you might think I'm gay, right? And we like, and so the idea of what gay was, by the way, back then was to be a certain way. You had a certain perception of it, and to be girly was the same thing, right? And so I think we lose a lot of men because they go up. And this is what I did. I went up in my head and I created a version of myself in my head. And I had to be away from my body, because to be into my body would be them things. So you can see how these societal expectations of us can make us go. And I think a lot of men that die by suicide because it's too scary to go back in their body and see the truth of some of the, like, all these truths that they ran away from when they was a teenager, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're speaking to something so important, Josh, which goes back
Mm.
to like the structural harm piece, where because of, you just named things like heteronormativity and patriarchy and these different inherited structures and logics, values and incentives, that this conditioning that shaped over generations how we then perceive our sense of safety, belonging, and dignity. And so,
Yeah.
within the lens of those systems, our safety, belonging, and dignity is conditional. I belong, I'm worthy of connection if and when I show up in this way, I speak in this way, I present in this way, I work in this way. This is my profession, and then similarly, I have worth conditionally as well. When I'm productive, when I, fill in the blank, and specifically that blank is determined by the forces of capitalism, colonialism, racism, patriarchy, ableism, heteronormativity, individualism, like you name it. And we can start to, when we start to look at it from this lens, we can really start to see the true impact and harm it has had on our psyches and on our bodies, that then lead to suicide or depression or anxiety or extraordinary self-criticism or judgment. And and I want to note, I think it's really important to bring in here that responses to structural harm, dissociation, disconnection, anxiety, self-criticism, are not individual failures.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like such a key piece here, because it's a lot of the self-improvement world or healing or even spirituality has twisted it in a way to say that I need to fix myself in some way so that I'm not depressed, so that I'm not anxious, so that I'm not critical of myself or others. But all of those responses are intelligent and self-protective responses to from a body trying to survive conditions that repeatedly cause it harm. And
Mm.
so it is not your fault. It is no one's fault. There's no one to blame here. It is, again, an appropriate response to harm. And I think once we begin to see it like that, we can reconnect to care and compassion for ourselves and for others. And for me, it's this, like, it turns into this motivator of like, fuck, we need to change the world we live in. Like, this is unacceptable. Like, once you start to see these patterns and you see the ways that they impact the lives of people in such real ways, to me, it just becomes like, how could we not? How could that not just, like, I'm losing words here. It's just,
Yeah, but honestly, I see like both of yours uh anger with the system, like, or passion against the system. And for me, that like show that's what lights me up, because I think that when you truly wake up to the things that have caused us to be the way that they are, you start to realize that, like you've just perfectly explained, really, that you're not broken. We're not the problem. Our reactions are reactions to the system. I talked about men, but it's the same for any gender, right? It's basically, if you don't fit, if you are not highly productive and working towards growing something for the economic system, then society will tell you that there is something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And then so ultimately you are going to fail and you're going to feel like you're the problem. And the system wants you to believe that you are. And that's why all roads lead back to you being the problem, right? Like, you were told, Honor, that essentially you'll be on, I'd imagine, like a bunch of different types of meds for the rest of your life. And there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because this is what happens. The system like creates the issue and then it profits off of the resulting distress. But and like, this is what's really important. You've got the big sort of system that does that, right? And you see that playing out now with like, Trump or whatever. And then even the little micro isms that play out in, Trump telling that female reporter that she should smile more. And then you can see that how like women will grow up thinking that, ultimately society wants girls to be good girls, right? To not rock the boat too much, right? The system actually doesn't want you to be too happy, too sad, too angry, or too anything. It wants you to just sort of be like acceptable and easy, right? And so when you see that the system is doing that in that way and then profiting on the distress, you can see that on a big level. The problem is that then happens within pockets, right? That happens within the well-being and mental health space. And then it happens within the spiritual community, because then you see people taking all of these different things, all of which are amazing when used in the way that they were originally supposed to be used, but then they just get productified. And then in order to sell the product, I have to tell you that you are the problem and that you're broken and you need fixing so that you buy the product, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're nodding loudly, Leona. Why don't you say
I just
something?
like it's even repeated in our own heads, like the macro to the micro. As someone who struggled with a lot of self-criticism, like it's just we absorb the cultural commentary on all of this, that like
Mm.
the system is right, and if you can't, sorry, my cat, and if you can't fit into it, like that's a you problem. And but to come to the lighter side, the silver lining of all of this is why I love somatics and embodiment so much, is like, whew, you look at some of these big systematic issues and you're like, I don't know what to do. But like somatics is like, befriend yourself. Like it starts just right in here. It starts just right in here with you not being your own slave driver, with you not forcing yourself to be highly successful and productive in a place that you don't feel safety, belonging, and dignity. And then as you get to know yourself, it starts to ripple so naturally into your relationships. Like I can attest to this so deeply. My relationships with both of you, my relationships with my mom, like my family, my brother, like all of those relationships from this work have gotten so much better because I have stopped paying attention to so much of the mental content. And when I'm having a conversation with someone, when I'm talking to Anna, I can be like, hey, I feel your nervous system. I feel there's something in your heart. There's something in your belly. Like there's something deeper than the words we're saying. Can I meet you there? Can I hold you there? And that like it just ripples so naturally, like this new way of being with self and then with other, when you start to just like care for each other's nervous systems. Oh yeah, it gives me a lot of hope. It gives me a lot of hope because I'm like, even if the system whatever, but like I can make a pocket with me, myself, and I, with me and my cat, with me and my best friends. Like, I can make pockets of this and I can start to thrive and I can start to build something new simply with the foundation that my body is wise and on my side, and that everything it's telling me, everything it's feeling is, like Anna said, a protective, very reasonable, evolutionary programmed response to the stress I'm under and the culture that I'm living in and the system that I'm trying to survive.
Yeah, because then ultimately when you do that, that's what, like that's how you start like localized community, right? Because once you're in your body, you naturally start to build community around you. Because when you're in your body then craves to be around other bodies that are bringing that same sense of safety, dignity, purpose, and all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I add on that? Because Leona,
Yeah.
I think you just nailed it so beautifully. And it makes me think of a program that we're working on that will probably be out in the next year called Coming Home to Your Body. And I think we use the word home in a really intentional way there, where the qualities of home, of like what would a safe, healthy, safety, belonging, and dignity oriented home feel like. The coziness, the settling, the peacefulness, the belonging, the dignity, the safety. And I think we've talked a lot about what somatics isn't, and sort of like what it is, and it makes me want to say that somatics and embodiment, it's this pathway to restore our human capacity and our dynamic equilibrium, our ability to move and respond to our changing environment, to our external world and our internal world, and specifically, it's a return to something that we already know how to do. We are in our bodies. We're already here. We've just been taught to orient to somewhere else. And so it's a return to the body as a source of information, as a source of safety, as a source of guidance, as a way of learning how we've been taught to intellectualize everything, including our emotions. And it offers a pathway to stop intellectualizing and to do something different. And that something different is something we already do, just unconsciously. And so it's about bringing consciousness and intentionality to being with your body, to being with your emotions, to be able to grow the capacity to be with the anxiety and not be overwhelmed by it. And that takes time, right? It's not that if anyone tells you like, be with your anxiety or your depression or face it, like they're missing it. They're not getting the point of somatics is gentle. Somatics is relational. Somatics is about a step-by-step moving at the speed of trust. And it's about shifting from everything being a mindset thing to the actual, to the reality of our wholeness that is more than just the mind.
Yeah. Moving at the speed of trust. That's a line. Sorry, go on.
Yeah,
Go.
I just also another line, move at the speed of trust. And like somatics is like, what if you don't have to fix your body? What if all you have to do is understand?
Yeah.
Like that is the entire point, is just get into your body, it's incredible, like building the awareness and how shut down we've been from our awareness. And when you start to just bring your consciousness and your awareness to your inner sensations, you learn so much. And suddenly you don't feel crazy. You don't feel broken. You might still feel sick, but you're like, oh, I understand. Like I'm holding tension in my gut. And that's why I have IBS, because like my stomach is never relaxed. And like everything that blossoms out of the understanding is so incredible. And it's just that, like, you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You just need to understand.
Yes. And like, I think you bring up such another key point, and that's something that's misunderstood in somatics is one of the ways we can twist this is by saying my body's the problem. My body is something to fix. And instead, it's like you said earlier, my body is wise and on my side. And if I can learn to see and understand and listen to how it communicates through sensation and emotion, then I can have the felt experience of, my body is actually telling me the truth about my experience. And instead of understanding the story, somatics brings us to what's happening underneath the story and in the body, and it speaks through tension and breath patterns and posture and gut sensation, and like you said, Leona, and this was the game changer for me with chronic illness. Was these are communications from my body saying something in your environment is harming you, is harming me. I need you to care for me right now, and enter into an environment that restores my sense of safety, belonging, and dignity. And then when we do that, we orient around care instead of fixing or problem solving or judgment.
So would you say that, like, because everyone's saying at the moment, regulate your nervous system, right? That's like the saying that's like the new saying that I see everyone saying. Would you say that, and I might be wrong, so say if it is wrong, but like, is it fair to say that like the best way to regulate your nervous system is to listen to it?
Yeah, I mean, the only way to bring regulation to your nervous system is to learn to listen to it, is to be able to have the capacity, the willingness, and to approach it from an orientation that is about supporting its sense of safety, belonging, and dignity.
Yeah. And you have to do something with, so when I look at like breath work, for example, the key thing about breath work is, in the way that I deliver it, is that piece at the end, which is when you're fully in your body. There's some integration stuff around there. Otherwise, it just becomes like spiritual theater. What's the term you use?
Spiritual entertainment.
Spiritual entertainment, because I think that's what happens with the nervous system, the productization of the nervous system, right? Which is just like people just teaching ways to get your nervous system back to a level where it's not overwhelming you. And if you're not careful, that's just like what you two are saying, if I'm hearing it right, is that becomes another form of bypassing, because you're just turning it down rather than when you listen to it. And I think that's what I was getting at, Leona, when I was talking about that, what do you call it? Orienting. That practice. On the senses around me, like that gets me into my body. And then I have to feel safe wherever I am to do something with what's in my body. Otherwise I'm just quelling it. And then it's going to go, no, you're not listening. And then go back to doing what it's doing until I listen to it and then act on it. Have I made sense? You're nodding, Leona. Am I making sense?
Yeah, totally. It is like somatics is not the path of, you're like, you learn somatics and then everything is perfect and you feel great all the time. And like, you probably, whoever is listening, like you have figured that out from the conversation. That's just not the point. It is the pathway to bringing awareness to your bodily, emotional experience, so that then you can build a life that doesn't just involve the values and priorities in your head, but involves the needs and capacity and pleasure and desire of your body and your emotions. So it's,
and that's why, when I think about like what's your course going to be called? Come home to your, what is it? Come home to your body.
Coming home to your body. Yeah.
The use of the word home, I always said, for so much of my life, I felt like I wanted to go home and I didn't know what that meant. And as I've done the work on myself and as I've been able to be in my body a lot more, I don't feel like I want to go home when I'm in my body. But I always had this sense that I wanted to go home. And it's because I couldn't be in my body. I just couldn't. It was unbearable. And so I went on a journey of getting out of my body, drugs, alcohol. But then when I got sober, I spent a number of years at the beginning in self-improvement, self-development, and even spirituality, but all of it was a version of it that got me out of my body. It didn't bring me home to myself. It got me up in my head. Oh, like there's this new spiritual idea that I've got, and I'm so in that, and I'm up in my head and but it's not my body. And actually, like the simplicity, although it's almost quite complex in the way that we've unpacked it, the simplicity of like loving my body, of listening to my, like coming in and listening to my nervous system. And it, like that orienteering thing we'd done the other day was just like such a prime example of it. Because I was up in my head, and when I'm up in my head, I'm like, oh, this person's annoying me, and I think like, I don't like it when you do this, and da-da-da. And then when you come down into your body, you go, oh, I'm really scared of X, Y, and Z, right? And the answer, like when you get in your body, the answer's so crystal clear, isn't it?
Yeah. And you absolutely nailed it. It's, you started with all this understanding and mental cognizing. And then when you came into your body, you said, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm upset.
Yeah.
And just returning to that, to what lays at the foundation there, which is the emotional experience we're having, and then the sensations of that as well. The 5 senses.
Yeah. And then if I'm in my head and I can't be home in my body, then of course you can't see me. So like I spent a lot of my life feeling like you don't understand me. Nobody sees me. Of course you don't, because I'm not there.
Yeah.
There's nothing to see. I'm up in my head. I'm not there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then but that's why the community aspect, or the people that we surround ourselves with, becomes so vital. Because if I'm going to be seen, truly seen, I better be with somebody that's going to see me and make me feel safe, and not do the opposite,
Yeah, someone who has the capacity and willingness to do that.
Yeah.
Anna,
So true, man.
like Anna has changed my life by being that person for the last, I don't remember when we met, 22 or something like that, the last 4 years maybe. But like one of the first times we hung out one-on-one, like Anna refuses to fix. Like the way you do it, babe, where you're just like, oh, that sounds so hard. Like, oh, it makes so much sense you feel that way. Oh, like you've like repatterned my own mental talk, the way that I talk to myself, by just reflecting back. Like, I'm going to just like drown you in safety, belonging, and dignity. Like, I'm going to just submerge your entire system in that, because I can tell in this moment you're having a really hard time giving it to yourself. And I'm not going to fix. I'm not going to give you a solution. I'm not going to tell you you're thinking about it the wrong way. You're just like, oh, of course you feel that way. Of course, that sounds so hard. Like, do you want to share anything else? Like, you're so safe to continue feeling that as long as you need to feel it. You can feel it right here with me. Come snuggle into my arms. I'll make you tea. Like, safety, belonging, dignity, like all of those things in one. And it's so powerful for ourselves and to give to another. And like you said, Josh, like we all know the feeling of someone who like can't meet us that way versus the feeling of someone who can. And like if it's easier to give safety and belonging, dignity to other people, give it to other people. Eventually the script will get going in your head and it'll start trickling down to yourself of just like, oh, that makes sense. It sounds so hard. Here, tell me about it. What do you need? What do you need to feel safer? What do you need to feel more cozy in this moment? Yeah, it makes such a big difference.
And I love, and Leona, I want to name something that you, I think, spoke to so clearly, which is we don't have, when we, what do I want to say here? When we respond to someone by fixing them, trying to fix them in some way, we are also then communicating to them that you are incapable. And I am the authority figure and going to tell you how to fix yourself. It comes from a lack of belief in that person. And such a foundational piece of somatics is, I see your wholeness, I trust your wholeness, and I'm going to reflect your wholeness back to you because I know that your system will find its equilibrium. Its capacity for dynamic equilibrium is there. And if I offer you my belief in that and what I'm seeing and noticing, and I validate your whole experience so that you can feel that and believe that too, you will self-right. That is how you're so capable. You are so capable. That is what we're offering when we offer safety, belonging, and dignity to someone else.
Yeah. Because if you're saying to somebody you're not broken, but then you're offering them a way to fix themselves, you're telling them, by telling somebody a way to fix themselves, you're saying, I think you're broken.
Yeah.
And like,
people so often
Liam.
just need a safe harbor, like just a safe harbor to be in the mess and to be in the emotions. Like, we have so few places in our society that are just a safe place to experience like half of the human experience. We're like, no, you shouldn't be feeling that. You should only be on the positive half. And just to like provide a safe harbor of like, I know you're going to be fine, but like, there's a big storm out there. You're in a big storm right now. So here's a safe harbor until you're ready to go on your way.
Yeah.
I remember when I first found NACOA, the charity for children of alcoholics. I think I've told this story a few times, but Hillary, the CEO, I remember saying to her, and it was the first time, like I said to her about my dad, I said, I feel like my dad let me down. My dad was an alcoholic, right? And I remember her going, that makes sense. And I so distinctly remember the silence she left after, because in the past, people had only ever said, they might have gone, oh yeah, I get that. But, he was only doing his best and he loved you very much. And So like what they were doing is invalidating what I was doing and saying, yep, you're right. You shouldn't be feeling this. And I'm helping you to understand it properly and feel it differently. And I just remember when Hillary went, yeah, that makes sense. Because I literally and then nothing came and a surge of emotion. I just remember a surge of emotion straight away because it was like the first time anyone had validated me. And she validated me by not invalidating me, by just going, yeah. And then not offering a like, let's try and get you to feel something else quickly. Just like, yeah, I'm here. And it fucking, like, I mean, that's what started me on this journey, I think truly of this kind of embodiment somatic journey. Yeah. I feel like we're coming to like a natural point of closing here. I am also gonna wet myself in a minute.
I was waiting for it.
You knew that was coming, didn't you? Oh my God. I need an embodiment practice for this. Jeez.
No. Listen to your body, trust your body, go give it what it needs.
I'm gonna close us first and then I'm gonna run. But where can people find you? Obviously, I'll put all of this below. Where can people find you?
So on all podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, The Body Knows, you'll see it. Our faces will pop up. We'll be right there. We also are each individually on Instagram. Anna is at Rome and Rise, and I'm at Leona Chases Lions. We're on YouTube if you want to see our faces during the podcast.
Come on.
And we put our podcast on Substack. I know Substack is not the most popular platform, but that's where we host all of our stuff. Yeah. And we have write-ups. So if you're more of a reader than a listener, you can go to thebodyknows.substack.com.
Yeah. And I would argue that Substack is the best place to go.
Yeah.
To find everything, because you can find everything from there, can't you?
Yes.
So I'll put all that below. Any parting comments? Anna, come to you first.
If you're interested in somatic work or one-on-one work, I do offer that as well. And you can find my website at romeandrise.com. And if you just want to have a conversation, let's just have a conversation. If you're looking for resources, I am a resource freak. And Leona's always just hauling me back. Put 3 at the end of the article. But I'm like, but I have 12. And so if you're looking for resources, I would send you in 100 different directions, or just 2 if you want to start with 2.
Amazing. And Leona?
Yeah, our podcast, we talk specifically about embodiment and somatics, and we have on Substack, open it up. The first thing you'll see is a start here guide. So if you're like, whoa, that was a lot, and I'm still not actually sure what somatics and embodiment is, but like, I want to know more, start here. We're trying to make it easy for you. This topic is so deep and so nourishing for us, but we have also laid out a path. If you're like, I need baby steps into it, we have that for you too. So just go to thebodyknows.substack.com.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's tangible stuff there as well, and the actual practices to guided practices as well.
Mm-hmm.
Look, you're both incredible. I can't wait to do loads more stuff with you in Breathing Space, and I can't wait to share this with everyone. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob.
I did tell you it would be dysfunctional. So thank you for sticking around till the end here. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, then please help me to grow Dysfunctional by sharing with your friends on social media. You can find me at Josh_FFW. And then wherever you're listening to this or watching this, please make sure that you've liked and subscribed, left us a 5-star review and a comment if your platform allows it. And I'll see you on the next one.